My name is Doug Sherman. I'm the president and founder of Immaculate Heart Radio, which is a network of 33 Catholic radio stations in 6 western states that reach a total population of about 50 million people, including stations in San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, about 96% of California, and Phoenix and Albuquerque and other cities. 19 years ago, we started our very first station in Reno, Nevada, Lake Tahoe. That's where we have lived for the last 43 years. And that was the original plan, was just to start one Catholic radio station. My wife really wanted to have our family go to Denver in 1993 for World Youth Day to see Pope John Paul. And that was a life-changing experience for me and for most of our family. What I heard Pope John Paul say most, what his message was, that everyone needs to do something to bring Christ to our world. Soon after that, I was going to be taking a road trip across country. She knew I was going to be on this road trip alone, and she gave me a grocery bag full of tapes to listen to. They were all of Scott Hahn's tapes, the best Catholic evangelism tapes that I'd ever heard at that time. And I listened to those as I drove across country, and it just hit me. It hit me like a ton of bricks, and I still haven't recovered, because what I heard on those tapes made me think to myself, this is it. This is the truth. This Catholic faith is the truth. Jesus Christ only started one church, and I'm in it, and this truth needs to be on the radio. And in between tapes, I would scan the radio dial just to see what I would hear, and I would hear 6 or 7 Protestant radio stations anywhere in the country, but I never heard one Catholic radio station because there weren't any. When we started that first Catholic radio station a couple of years later in Reno, it was only the 7th Catholic radio station in the whole country. When Janet and I started having children, when we started having our family, we decided to move to Lake Tahoe, and that was in 1972, so 43 years ago, and that's where we've raised our family and had wonderful years. And I was a home builder for many years in Lake Tahoe, and I built quite a few homes. But you know, in the construction process, the critical point is the foundation. Right? You have to get the foundation in the ground, it has to be perfect, and everything builds from there. And there's a correlation there with our faith, I think, that we have to have a good foundation. We have to have a good faith in Jesus. We have to have a good understanding of our Catholic faith. And my experience was that I didn't have that good foundation in the Catholic faith. I was raised in the Presbyterian Church. I went along with being married in the Catholic Church, but I didn't really understand the faith. Once I understood that Christ was really present in the Eucharist and that Christ really established just one church, that was the beginning of my foundation of faith. And the reason I see an importance for Catholic radio is that it helps to build the foundation of faith in other people. That's what we need. We need our solid foundation of faith, and then from there we can grow closer to God. I think one of the first phone calls we got was probably one of the most memorable, because it was from a woman in Reno who had said that she was so grateful for our station because for many years there was a split in her family. Her husband didn't even like her taking their son to Mass. He was opposed to the Catholic faith. And yet somehow her husband stumbled onto our station and started listening to it. And within just a few weeks, he was already going to Mass with his family, and it united them more closely. That was probably the first testimony that came our way. But now, 19 years later, we've literally heard from thousands and thousands and probably tens of thousands of people who have said that hearing the Catholic faith on the air has brought them closer to God or back to the church or back to the sacraments. We've heard from people that have gone to confession for the first time in 30 or 40 years, and dramatic stories. We've heard from over 40 people. I've lost count. I think it's over 50 people who were on their way to end their life, but they heard something on the radio at just the right time, and they literally turned around and went back and started rebuilding their lives. Christmas is approaching, and it's a joyous time for most of us this time of year, and it's a very difficult time for some people who are suffering at this time. I'm going back several years to a Christmas that we spent in Austria with our daughter and her husband and their new baby son, and they were there as my son-in-law was working on his graduate degree in a little village in Austria. And we had a wonderful white Christmas in this little village. And one of the traditions in this village was that everyone, all of the Catholics, gathered outside the parish on Christmas Eve afternoon. And each one of them brought a candle with them that wasn't lit. They brought it from their home, an unlit candle, and they all gathered together. You could see your breath, it was so cold. And they were waiting. And they were waiting for something to arrive down the road. I really didn't know what was going to happen next, but before too long, there was a group approaching on horseback. And the lead rider was carrying a lantern that was lit. And slowly they approached. You could see the steam coming off the horses and out of their nostrils. It was so cold. But when the lead rider approached the people that were waiting, then they gathered around and they lit their candles from that one candle. And they took their candles home to light up their homes, or they took it to other homes, to the people who didn't have a chance to join this ceremony in town. But this spread this candlelight throughout the village to all of the homes. Well, where did that candlelight start? That very same morning, someone had a candle in Bethlehem at the site where Christ was born, and he lit his candle on the candle by Christ's birthplace, and he put it in a lantern, and he took it to the airport, and Austrian Airlines flew that lantern with the lit candle to Vienna, where there was a group of people waiting to take it to each city in Austria, and from the cities to the towns, the same ceremony, and from the towns to the villages. And so the light of Christ spread that day all the way from Bethlehem to every village and town throughout Austria, every Catholic home. And that's a beautiful tradition. And it just reminds me of what we can do individually to spread the light of Christ, you know, to people who are waiting, maybe to the people that can't go to the village square or to the parish to receive the light themselves. But we can do something to bring that light to their home, and we can help to spread it in our families and our villages. And that's my hope for this Christmas. So my Christmas wish for you, from all of us at Immaculate Heart Radio, is that the light of Christ and the love of Christ might warm your hearts so much that you share it even more than you already do with other people in your family or in your parish or in your community, and help them find their way closer and closer to God and to Christ and His church. That's our wish to you from Immaculate Heart Radio. Merry Christmas.